Hello everyone, welcome to Mitchmatics. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to add and subtract rational numbers, and we're specifically going to be focusing on decimals. So when we're doing decimals, you just got to follow a certain procedure to be able to add decimals, and then when you're doing the ones that have signs or they have integer signs on them, you're going to have to be very careful and manage your signs and knowing the rules of decimals of adding and subtracting. So use the signs to tell you if you're adding them together or if they're subtracting. So things you need to remember for this. You need to remember how to do your integer rules. You also need to know the rules for adding and subtracting decimals. Now let's do a first example that's very familiar to us. It doesn't have integer signs. So let's follow the steps here on the side to help guide our thinking. Step 1. Line up the decimals based on decimal point or place value. So if you look at the first problem, 3.42 plus 26.78, we're going to line them up based on place value. So I'm going to always write the bigger number on top just because it's easier. So 26 is actually bigger than 3, so I'm going based on that value. So 26.78, and then I'm going to line up my decimals. So 3 will go here, and then 42, and then I'm going to add them. So that's the first step. Now I'm going to place 0 wherever I see a missing number. So I see that there's a missing number here, so I can put a 0 here. And you don't have to do that one, but usually you do it where behind it, where you see zeros. And then you're going to add and subtract the numbers from left to right, carrying over place value. If you're adding, you're carrying it over. If you're subtracting, you're borrowing when needed. So 8 plus 2, that is 0. I'm going to carry over my 1. 7 plus 4 is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Plus 1 is 12. I'm going to keep the 2. I'm going to carry the 1 because that's my 10th place. I'm going to bring down my decimal place. Bring it down. And then 6 plus 3 is 9. Plus 1 more is 10. So 0, and carry my 1 over. And now I have 2 plus 1 plus 0. 2 plus 1 is 3. So my answer is 30.20. That is my decimal. So I have successfully added 2 decimals. Now let's get to more complicated ones. We are going to do ones that have integer signs. So again, these are rational numbers. Let's go to the next one. 2. Negative 2.145 plus negative 21.5. So let's do that again. And you can think of this almost like money. I owe somebody negative $2.145 approximately. And I owe somebody, and then I borrow from them a negative 21.5 or $21.50, and I borrow that. So when I have 2 negatives or I'm adding the same signs, I just have to add the values and keep the sign. So when I have these, since these are both the same sign and it's being added, I'm just going to add these 2 numbers. I'm going to ignore my sign while I'm doing it and then bring the sign back in afterward. So I'm going to rewrite it 21.5. I'm going to stack that over my 2.145, and then I'm going to add them. Again, I will worry about the signs afterward, but I know because they're the same sign, I'm just adding them. So I'm going to put zeros here, step 2. Put a placeholder value, a 0 where you need it. Now let's add. 5 plus 0 is 5. From left to, we're adding from right to left. Sorry, right to left, not left to right. So 0 plus 4 is 4. 5 plus 1 will be 6. Oops. Put your decimal place down. 1 plus 2 will be 3, and then 2 will be here. Now I gotta account for my integer sign. They're both negative, so my answer has to be negative. So the answer is a negative 23.645. And now we have added 2 negative integers. Let's move on to another one. Let's do the orange one. So we're going to follow the same process. Now look at this one. 32.1 minus 51.689. I'm subtracting a bigger decimal. So when I'm subtracting, I'm going to have to add the opposite or use keep, change, change. So let me show you that by rewriting it. I'm going to rewrite 32.1 minus 51.689. Now, this is subtraction. This number, 51.689, it's a positive. There's no sign in front of it. This is a subtraction symbol, but the sign for this number is positive. Now I'm going to use red to show you what I mean. I'm going to keep the first sign, change it to addition, and change this to negative. So keep, change, change. Or add the opposite. Add the opposite sign. So this is positive. Now it's the opposite. It's negative. Now my problem becomes 32.1 plus negative 51.689. I'm adding 2 integers that have different signs. When they have different signs, a positive and a negative, I subtract them. So let's do that again in orange, and I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 51.689. And I'm going to subtract it, and I'm going to line them up, 32.1. Then you're going to put my placeholder value, zeros. Again, that's number 2, step 2. And now I'm just going to subtract from right to left. 9 minus 0 is 9. 8 minus 0 is 8. 6 minus 1 is 5. And then 1 minus 2, we can't do that because the 2 is bigger. So I'm going to borrow from 5, make it 4, and make this 11. So now it's going to be 11 minus 2. So that's going to be, let's see, 11 minus 2 will be 9. And then I'm going to do 4 minus 3, which will be 1. Now, because I need to think about my signs again, the larger number was 51.689, larger as in the number. Because that is negative, my answer will be negative. So negative 19.589 will be my answer. And I'm going to double check that with a calculator to make sure I didn't do it incorrectly. So yes, negative 19.589. If you check with a calculator, check your understanding. Now let's do one last example. Now we're going to do the purple one. Negative 51.0 minus 41.87. Again, keep change, add the opposite. So negative 51.0 minus 41.87. I'm just rewriting it. I'm going to use my red. I'm going to keep the negative 51, change this to addition. And since this, again, this is a positive 41, I'm going to change it to negative. Again, you don't see it, but there's a little positive sign there. Now I have two negatives and I'm adding them together. When I'm adding similar signs, I just add them together, okay? So now I'm going to add them. I'm going to add 51.0 and 41.87. And put the 0 wherever you see a placeholder value. I'm going to add them. 0 plus 7 is 7. 0 plus 8 is 8. I have a decimal point. I bring it down. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then 5 plus 4 is 9. Now, because they're both negative, I'm going to come back to it. They're both negative, so this has to be a negative number. So my answer is negative 92.87. Let me check that with my calculator. And again, you'll always want to check with your calculator. Just make sure you're doing it correctly by hand first. That is correct. So that is how you add decimals or rational numbers using integer rules and looking at the steps to add decimals. I hope this helped you out. So keep practicing and use this as a reference to be able to add them together. And have a great day.